But first, some headlines from around the state from the weekend. We will start in Fort Worth. That TCU has added a new assistant to their staff, and is a name that's relatively familiar. It's Jerry Kill.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Kill, the former Minnesota head coach, is going to join the staff at TCU as a special assistant to Coach Gary Patterson. Kill and Patterson are tight, real tight. Kill was the best man in Patterson's wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay, they are buds.
Serious.
They are buddies. Jerry Kill was best known. He was Minnesota's coach from 2011 to 2015. If you remember, he had to step down because of some health issues. I want to say epilepsy.
Yeah, he suffers from severe epilepsy, and I want to say before he stepped down, he had a seizure. I don't know if it was during a game or during practice, but he had to step aside for a couple games, and then I believe it happened again, and so he had to step down from Minnesota. So
he was a guy, and I don't know, but forgive my ignorance here. Epilepsy can be like seizures can be caused by stress and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's obviously I hope you guys know this, but being an FBS head coach or FBS coach period or football coach period at any level can be a relatively stressful gig. But Jerry Kill was the associate athletic director at Kansas State in 2016. He was offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Rutgers in 2017, and then he retired. But he's going to get back into coaching, going to be an assistant, a special assistant to Gary Patterson at TCU. Both Kansas natives. He's going to be in charge of the Horned Frogs offense, but he's not going to be an on-field guy. So it sounds like he's going to be in a similar role. He was at Virginia Tech last year under Coach Justin Fuente, another TCU guy, and that guy with TCU ties. He was there, and so it sounds like he'll be in the booth. It sounds like he won't be on the field, calling plays or anything like that, but he'll just be more of an analyst. But it's a relatively big name coming to the TCU coaching staff. Jerry Kill.
I'm trying to find the tie between him and Coach Patterson.
Meese left a good comment here. He said, "Wait, is he an assistant coach or an assistant to the coach?"
He is a special assistant to Coach Gary Patterson.
Yes,
that is his official
for
title.
all you Office fans out there, we appreciate that.
That's
comment.
official. We're going to pizza.
Assistant to the coach.
We're going to Alfredo's Pizza Cafe after this. I don't know.
Pizza by Alfredo.
I know there's a Francione tie.
They just go way back.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder if they were both
They're bros.
on the staff. There are a couple other things, by the way, that Brian Applewhite's going to be the new running backs coach, and Doug Meacham, who's been the co-offensive coordinator, is going to be returned to the inside receivers and tight ends coach.
I was going to say I thought they overlapped. No, I thought they overlapped at Pittsburgh State under Francione, but they were kind of like a year. They're like missing each other by a year, so I'm really curious.
They must just have been in the same orbit,
maybe,
or something like that. Anyways, but anyway, Jerry Kill has joined the staff at TCU. Let's talk about a very troubling situation with Jett Duffey.
Yeah.
Jett Duffey, of course, the former Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and the Texas Tech quarterback. He's announced that he was going to transfer. He went. It looked like he was going to transfer to Tulane. He even tweeted about it, saying, "Hey, here I'm going to land at Tulane." And then suddenly he wasn't. And then it looked like he was going to go to Central Michigan, and then he was denied admission to Central Michigan. What we are now hearing and reading is that this is related to Title IX. You may remember back in 2017 that he had a complaint filed against him in Title IX. He served a suspension, but he was never criminally charged for committing 2 counts of sexual assault against an incapacitated woman. He was then, he's consistently maintained his innocence. I think that's important. But he was punished for according to Title IX, and then he was put back onto the football team. Apparently, from what we understand, there is another report out from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal that a second allegation has been made was made back in March And most I think importantly, not importantly, that's the wrong way. Most notably, I should say, is that this is not an anonymous report. As the woman who has filed the complaint against Jett Duffey has gone on the record with her name and things like that. It's not important for me to tell you her name, but that she said that Duffey allegedly raped and possibly drugged her in an off-campus incident in the early morning. And so what we are understanding is that the reason Jett Duffey cannot find a place to transfer is because of these Title IX issues. And, obviously those are pretty heavy issues. We're going to keep an eye on this to see if and where Jett Duffey lands for a transfer, because he's obviously a notable player here in the state of Texas and in the college football world. Here's another story, and a weird one. Let's talk about a gentleman named DeTravian Brown. DeTravian Brown is now a wide receiver who is signed with the University of North Texas. He's a prospect out of Shreveport, Louisiana. He was a 3-star commit, or a 3-star prospect. Nice little get for North Texas. Nice little get. So here's the funny thing, though, is that on National Signing Day, he was sitting at a table. Everybody was wondering where DeTravian Brown was going to commit. He reaches into a bag under the table and pulls out an Ole Miss hat. Puts on an Ole Miss hat and says, "I'm going to the Rebels." Well, here's the thing. Ole Miss never announced the signing, and then Ole Miss officials told ESPN that Brown did not receive a formal offer, nor was he sent scholarship papers. There is an extremely weird situation here. He made a statement on Twitter trying to explain it. DeTravian Brown said, quote, "Until yesterday, I was pretty sure I was on my way to Ole Miss. The assumption was based on a verbal offer from the school and reassurance even into the final hours that I would receive my national letter of intent today. As you know, that is not the case. Words cannot describe the stress and disappointment this has caused my family. However, I'm optimistic about my future as a collegiate football player and will continue to strive to make my dreams a reality." Well, North Texas swooped in and scooped this kid up and said, "All right, come play for us." And so, you talk about a kid playing with a chip on his shoulder. Seth Luttrell tweeted about it and said, "Hey, we're happy to have DeTravian Brown on our signing class." So, a bizarre situation, but the long story short is that North Texas has landed a 3-star recruit out of Shreveport named DeTravian Brown, a name to know there, at Northwood High School, I should say. Northwood High School in Shreveport. Finally, there was football this weekend. Mm-hmm. The XFL made its debut with 2 games in the state of Texas.
Yep.
One on Saturday as the Houston Roughnecks beat the LA Wildcats 37-17. And then yesterday in Arlington as the Dallas Renegades lost to the St. Louis Battlehawks 15-9.
Can we just address the fact, too, that LA is having the mascot, the Wildcats, is like easily the weakest mascot in the XFL?
And especially when you're grading on the XFL curve.
Yeah.
Where you've got the Renegades and the Vipers and the Dragons and Defenders.
Yeah, we went through the whole list,
Battlehawks.
and I was like, you couldn't even... The Wildcats, that's one of the most basic mascots you can have. I
got to admit, it was a little weak. But in any case, that is... It went down. Yes, I swam through it. I watched a fair bit of it there, especially in the second half of the Renegades game. Of course, worth mentioning that our good friend, the dearly departed Poochie, is now working for the Dallas Renegades. It sounded like, in reading kind of reaction, it sounded like it was pretty positive overall, the reception to the XFL.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm the biggest skeptic in the world, especially when it comes to expanding football in general. I feel like the reason why we cherish football in the way we do is because it's more of a confined time to the fall and things like that. And so last year when the AAF took off and everyone was like, "Oh, this thing's great," and then it really wasn't. It was mostly there was a lot of overpraising of some mediocre play and presentation, if we're being honest. And so I was the biggest skeptic, and then I saw both games basically in full on Saturday, and then I saw a quarter of the Renegades game on Sunday. And I mean, they're doing enough to where, like, yes, anything below the NFL is gonna have some rough spots, right, in terms of quality of play. You know, you don't watch Mizzou, I don't watch Texas State for the quality of play, right? There are other factors that go into why we like even high school football, right? Not every kid goes to play D1 football in Texas, but people love watching it for certain reasons, and I think the XFL did a good job of showcasing that and like highlighting aspects other than just the on-field product. The presentation of the way the interviews are conducted, the coaches being mic'd, the quarterback being mic'd, the refs being mic'd was really fascinating. I think that's going to be something that the NFL might adopt in a couple of years because of transparency on all that. But, like, the idea that, like, a quarterback or what was the first game? Seattle and DC. The fact that Brandon Silvers from Seattle can throw an interception and then get a mic in his face on the sideline.
Yeah.
And say, hey, what happened on that throw? And it was like,
they did that with the kicker, too. He straight up missed the kick, and they said, hey,
first he made a kick. They didn't interview him. Then he missed the kick.
And said, come on, bro, what happened?
What happened on that kick? But it's like things like that where you're like, oh, that's like, it's funny to us, but it's also interesting and be like, oh, yeah, I kind of want to see what the quarterback was going through his head on that play.
And I think that's the key is you can't, like, if you're going to do something different here with this league, you have to go into it knowing, hey, it's going to be different. Like, we're going to try and do things. Like, we don't want to mirror the NFL. We want to have good football on the field, but we want to make this a different experience so people want to tune in rather than thinking this is just not as good football. You know?
The XFL, like, and such with the AAF, and it's an unfair comparison because the XFL, I think, is on steadier ground.
Well, I think
financially.
I think we kind of realized that I don't know if you know, but the AAF pushed to come out basically a year early when they heard the XFL was coming back, and so like when they came out last year, they didn't have. I mean, you saw the TV deal. What was it? CBS and like CBS Network, maybe. Obviously, the XFL has so much more.
ESPN and Fox, basically.
Yeah,
ABC and Fox.
Right, and so like the AAF, they rushed to kind of get to the gate first, and like obviously the product just wasn't good. They had no money, things like that, and the XFL definitely was a more concentrated and thought out rollout. I mean, I think it helps having like you go back and look at the AAF coaches and head coaches, and it was definitely like a lot of like blah. I felt like a lot of schematic wise, like Mike Martz. Like when was the last time Mike Martz was running a fun offense?
I mean, they went in there, and it's like I think they knew that the XFL that they were not going to get the high, like they were not going to get Lamar Jackson, right? They're not going to get Lamar Jackson. But what they can do is they can still go get high-profile coaches and make them the center.
I'll tell you what, PJ Walker looked a lot of fun running June Jones's offense for the Roughnecks. Like
June Jones and Bob Stoops and Mark Trestman, right? And it's like these are
Hamilton. Like these are names.
These are big names, right? Chuck Long was calling plays, right? It's an interesting. I thought that overall it was a pretty darn good first week. Yeah. I think there are some things to iron out. I think that some of the rule changes are really interesting.
I love the extra point, how it's 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points, and you just move the ball accordingly. Like I love that addition. I love the running clock with 2 minutes to go. I think it's basically just always running, so you're kind of like really.
And one small thing that I will say that I think changes everything, and I never understood why they don't do it, is in the NFL, the quarterback has an earpiece, and then he goes and he relays to everybody else. On the XFL, everybody has an earpiece, right? And so the coach is able to call the play to everybody. They don't. Which, if you talk about speeding up the game, that means you don't have to huddle. That means you can go out there. We can all get into position. We can do that and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of talk about the kickoff.
I personally love the kickoff.
I like it too.
I need to see it more. I need to, it's too weird for me right now.
Well, the thing is, I mean, to me it's either this in 10 years. It's either this version of the kickoff or no kickoff.
Or no kickoff at all.
Right.
I agree, and so it's a really interesting idea. I think I need to let it soak a little bit more before I'm willing to jump in and say that I
think one of the criticisms of it that I don't necessarily agree with is that when you look at it face value, you're like, oh, that looks like there's going to be a lot more returns, right? Returns for touchdowns. Not necessarily, because like there's no.
I think there'll be fewer.
There's going to be fewer because there's no lanes to block. Like there's no more like gaps or anything like that. Like you always talk. Special teams coaches always talk about fill your lane, things like that. When you're going down the field, you're only 5 yards apart. So like it's just you're hitting the man, and like you're just it's
I
less
saw
gaps.
a lot of people on Twitter talking about that that style of kickoff is going to make it safer too. Like I know, like that's a big
no,
thing.
that's
And
I think that's the big
flying
reason.
down
I
the
think
field
that, yeah,
40
exactly.
yards.
I think that's the
I think
big
that
reason.
is another good point.
I really thought it was really solid, and I thought that it was a good step in the right direction. I think there are some kinks to iron out. I think that maybe interviewing the kicker right after he makes miss the kick is not the best.
Well, I'm also, I mean, from a presentation standpoint, like
Yeah.
a lot of the reporters are learning too. Obviously,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I did appreciate Greg McElroy on the call.
Yeah.
Because when you hear the coach call a play, he was able to dissect what that play is. Similar to how we kind of praised Tony Romo for
Yes.
doing that. I kind of hope that's kind of the route they go with these color commentators, but also like the sideline reporters. You could tell, like, I know some people were getting mad at the reporters, like, why are you asking a kicker, what are the, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee you, somebody's in that reporter's ear saying, hey, go talk to the kicker.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
That's he's not doing that by
100%
himself.
yeah,
a
that's not the
producer.
reporter going, I'm going to go embarrass this kicker. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
the
no.
producer's like, hey, go talk to the guy who just missed. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So it was a brave new world there as the XFL launches.
Yeah.
The state of Texas goes 1-1 in the first week.
Yeah.